Welcome to Sports Saved My Life. My name is Clayton Freck, and I'm the CEO and founder of Angel City Sports. We know the power of sport to change and, in some cases, save lives. We hear these compelling stories every day, and we created this show to share them with the world. Enjoy the show, and remember to like, follow, share, and comment. All right. So today I have the pleasure of interviewing Kaitlyn Verfeurth. Kaitlyn grew up in Wisconsin and acquired a spinal cord injury when she was 7 years old. She's an elite multi-sport athlete, among other things. She's competed in 3 Paralympic Games in wheelchair tennis and many other international tournaments. She's a double gold medalist from the Pan American Games in 2007. She's a coach and mentor to many, many people. Near and dear to my heart, she's come out to the Angel City Games presented by the Hartford for many years. She currently is training to make the Para-Canoe team for the Tokyo Paralympics. We're going to hear a lot more about that. She's a disability advocate, entrepreneur, outdoors woman. And aside from all of that, what I love about Kaitlyn is she's always smiling. She brings it. She is always so present with you, no matter where you are, on the phone, in person, on Zoom. So I just love that about her and her energy, and she just brings so much to the Angel City community. Welcome to the show, Kaitlyn.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be on today.
We are super excited to have you. So first question, what comes to mind when you hear the title of the show?
I absolutely love the title of the podcast, Sports Saved My Life, right? That's correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I feel like this title of this podcast literally is my life. Without adaptive sports, or without, even before I broke my back, like I had 2 older brothers and I was always doing whatever they were doing, whether it was playing basketball, like running, riding bikes. I was a really active kid before my accident as well. So after I broke my back, and once I learned that I would have to use a wheelchair for the rest of my life, I didn't know where sports were going to fit in, because it was such a big part of my life, and I didn't know where I was going to have an outlet anymore. And so literally, Clayton, like, this title of this podcast is my life, because I wouldn't be the person I am without the sports, without the adaptive sports. I wouldn't be independent. I wouldn't have the freedom. I wouldn't be self-sufficient.
So just tell me this, because it's a hard question.
Yeah.
Like, who would you be?
I know.
Who would you be?
I don't even know if I can envision it, but I feel like I would be I have so much energy inside, so I don't really see myself as like just being a couch potato exactly if sports weren't around. But I don't know. And I'm not really artistic. I mean, I am a little bit creative, but I mean, I don't just sit down and, like, I can't draw very well. So I don't know. And that scares me to even think about, like,
right?
My brain goes to a dark place. Like, what would that be?
All right. I gave the long introduction, but I want to hear your own introduction. Give me like one sentence that describes who you are.
Oh, geez. That's a really good question. I would say, my name's Kaitlyn Verfeurth, and I am an unstoppable force of energy and love and just positivity. That's how I look at myself. Like, I really feel like I'm unstoppable. Nothing gets in my way. And my coworkers see it, my friends, my family see it, and they tell me, like, you know, everybody's always encouraging me with no matter what it is that I want to do. But I really feel that. I feel like even at work, I'm taking on this new position, and I do things that my other coworkers with disabilities don't necessarily do. And so I feel like I'm kind of like the cutting edge of what it is for a person with a disability, and how I don't let that stop me from doing my best and trying my hardest.
What's an example of things that you do at work where your coworkers are like, what are you doing? Like, what is that?
So I know. So I started, we moved down here into Phoenix. We were up in Flagstaff, Arizona, and we moved down to Phoenix in September, and I started a job at Ability 360, and I am a program specialist there. My title right now, or my role right now, really is growing wheelchair tennis here in the Phoenix area. Before I got here, wheelchair tennis really didn't exist. And I was telling you and what's his name, Steve? Shoot.
Oh, producer Dave.
Dave, sorry, Dave. I was telling Dave, I think right before you got him, we had 27 people in the month of March alone playing wheelchair tennis and coming out to play. So my bosses are telling me that's the biggest programming. That's the most people we've ever had in any of our programs. So it's
I know that's like a big number. Like that's like kudos to you.
It's blowing up. And so, but what I do is I do, even though it's not, maybe I should be asking for help for certain things, but I get everything from sports chairs, getting them ready, loading in my truck, or taking the van for work, borrowing the van and loading chairs up.
You're just a beast. You're just a beast.
I want it done a certain way. So even though I get help, and this is where I'm really stubborn, and I think that sometimes backfires on me, but I want it done a certain way. And if I don't do it, I get kind of frustrated because, oh, that's not how I want it. And I know those are things that I'm still working on as a person, but those things I go above and beyond. And people my coworkers that also have disabilities, they see me throughout the gym and throughout the facility, pushing these chairs all around the place. And they're and I'm just some of the members there, they call me a water bug because I'm just jumping from one place to the other. And they'll be like, Kaitlyn, what are you doing? And I'm just well, I'm getting all the equipment ready. And they're you don't have to do that. I'm well, it's part of my job. I don't know. I like things done in a certain way. And I don't know if that's the athlete in me.
I feel like I'm watching someone that just isn't aging. You've been in this sport world for so long, and you're just so amazing. All right, well, that was great. I love hearing about that, and congrats on the job with Ability 360. He's a great partner of ours, and maybe that partnership will strengthen with you being there.
I'm really excited about the next Angel City games, and
I know you're gonna crush. You got so many athletes in tennis. Holy cow! I'm
so excited.
All right, so I want to go way back, right? I want to talk about your childhood and pre-injury and post-injury. So, talk about where you grew up. What was childhood like? What kind of kid were you? And did that change after the accident? Talk a little bit about the accident. Give us the story.
Yeah. So I'll just say, prior to my car accident, I was just a regular happy-go-lucky kid. I had two older brothers. My parents were divorced, so I grew up with a single mom. She worked, 2-3 jobs just to support our family. And really, my two older brothers, there was a pretty big age gap. So they were 10 and 8 years older than me. So they were pretty much like my dad.
You were like a little surprise.
Yeah. And so my brother, Brian, he really, I don't know how he did it, but he really took over that father figure role for me as a kid. And he was there for all my important stuff. Before my injury, I was in ballet and tap. I love tap dance. I did a little bit of soccer. I loved rollerblading, all kinds of crazy stuff like that. And my brother Brian would read me bedtime stories at night when my mom was working. And
wow. The very oldest one, the 10-year older one.
Yeah, he really kind of fulfilled that role. And
was your father in the picture at all, Kaitlyn? Or
no, he was never in the picture. It was just me, my mom, and my brothers.
Wow.
And my middle brother Peter, he kind of had middle child syndrome, and I think the attention I got, I'm pretty sure, looking back now, he didn't really enjoy that. And the two of them probably fought a lot too. I know they fought, but things started to get once my mom remarried, actually right before our car accident, to my stepdad, who's no longer, my parents got divorced again, or my mom and my stepdad got divorced when I was a sophomore in high school. And it was just a really weird time because we added in this new person to our family, and he really didn't turn out to be what we thought he was going to be. And there were a lot of lies and some emotional and verbal abuse. And so
more that your mom had to deal with, or even the kids?
Even the kids. He would just say stuff that was inappropriate or derogatory to my mom, and just seeing that happen, wasn't
that's
good.
Traumatic, right? On a kid, that's totally traumatic.
Yeah. And, my brothers were in high school. So I was really, they were out and about more so and were able to leave the house. And I was, kind of stuck at home. So I saw a lot of them fighting and just the verbal abuse that he would, tell things, say not very nice things to my mom. And so, and then literally they got married. I want to say it was like October or September of like 1993 or 1992. And then our car accident happened in June of 1993. And my stepdad he worked for the state of Wisconsin. He actually worked for the DNR, which is Department of Natural Resources. But he would tell people that he was like a police officer because he had like an undercover car with like lights in it and sirens. And so he actually pulled up to the scene of our accident and was there when he saw everything kind of unfold. And
but he didn't know it was you?
He didn't know it was us until he like talked to the police officer and they like started to get more information about who was involved in the accident. And then he realized like, oh my gosh, that's my family.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's crazy.
In the car is you and your siblings, or what?
My mom was driving, my brother Peter, the middle brother, he was in the front seat and I was sitting in the back seat. And we were just running some errands and we were on our way back home. We were on a 2-lane highway with like, a turning lane in the middle.
Yep.
And we were following a semi truck. It was full of like these really long lumber logs. And I really don't know all the details, but all I know is somebody made a last minute decision not to turn and then came back over. And my mom we hit right into the semi truck with these lumber logs. And I just remember waking up in the car and there were like logs all over the freeway or over the road.
Oh, wow.
And the other thing that was really interesting is I was being a brat and I don't know, 7 years old, whatever. And my mom and my brother were like, Kaitlyn, you need to put your seatbelt on. Kaitlyn, put your seatbelt on. I was like, no, I don't have to. Like, I don't have to listen to it. And then my brother turned around and he was like, put your seatbelt on. And he like kind of scared me. And I was just wearing the lap belt. I was sitting in the middle seat of the back seat. Sure. And this isn't like a 1985 Pontiac Grand Am. And so there was no shoulder restraint. And right as I click, I don't remember anything. I just remember waking up in the car and blood, glass. My mom was unrecognizable. The engine of the car literally fell into her lap. And, she was not conscious. My brother, he was awake. He was just like screaming, yelling and freaking out. When I kind of came to, I was, like, what the heck is going on? And I just remember touching my legs and like realizing that I couldn't feel them and then realizing that I couldn't move it. And I just like, oh my God, I can't feel my legs. Oh my God. Like, what am I going to, oh my God. And I just freaked out. And then at that moment, the paramedics kind of arrived and like, I was scooting across the back seat to open the door and they're like, don't move, stay as still. They realized, I told them I couldn't feel my legs. They're like, don't move. You need to stay as still as possible. It's your back. So, but the other little other little really interesting thing, and I have to share this because like if people believe, there's something after this life, there really truly is, because I do remember right before I was waking up, the windshield was lit up like bright lights. And I went to Catholic school. I was raised Catholic. And the Virgin Mary, I know this sounds crazy, but she came to me with these like 2 angels on the side. And I get goosebumps every time I think about it or talk about it. And she came to me, this is all before I kind of came to, and she's like, it's not your time. You have to stay. It's not your time to go. And these angels, I just heard like the most beautiful, like
a motivational speech.
Oh yeah. It was so bizarre. It was the weirdest
goosebumps.
And it was the weirdest thing. And then all I kind of remember was like, it all like quickly ended. And then I saw the blood and glass everywhere. It was crazy. And that's where I think like for my life though, because I've had that experience, I know that there's more to this life, and this life it's not about me. It's really about other people. And like, there's a purpose for me to be here. And I know that sounds crazy, but there's a reason why I'm here and why I connect with certain people. And I know you do it. I mean, you do it through the games too. And all the people that you meet, you change lives. And I think I
Well,
believe that's why we're here, and that's what my purpose is. And that
you're,
is really cool.
you are in a very safe place to talk about purpose. Trust me, that's one of my questions if we get to it, but you already kind of got there. So uh, before we kind of dig deeper into your journey post accident, like was your mom okay? Was your brother okay? Like were there sort of like this, were you all injured at the
Yeah.
same time? And like, right? Because when a kid goes into the hospital and, I've had to do this, for surgeries and stuff, it's really helpful to be there with them and right, like to be able to navigate. But your
Yeah.
mom's injured
Yeah.
too, right? And
Yeah. So we all came out alive. I mean, we all survived. We're all thriving today. If you saw my mom today, you would have no idea that her face, she lost all her teeth, like her face has been surgically, reconstructed. They were able to fix her intestines and things like that. She was even more so lucky because there was a team of doctors from Japan who happened to be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, literally working on tissue regeneration and growth. And they were able to repair her legs. She has all rods in her legs, no kneecaps. But if those doctors from Japan doing their research were not there in Wisconsin, she would be a double amp for sure. That's what they told us. She is so lucky to have her legs because it was all brand new, new stuff that they were doing. My brother, she had going back to my mom real quick, she had extensive therapy. I mean, even when I came home from the hospital, I was in the hospital for three months. She was still, in a wheelchair and still recovering and rehabbing. And my mom was so determined and so diligent about doing her exercises and everything. And that really rubbed off on me. So I'm thankful for her being a really good example. My brother, he was really lucky. He was wearing a baseball cap that day, and all the glass from the windshield and the side of the car, he had a lot of plastic surgery to remove it in his arms and in his face and his shoulders and his legs. But other than that, he really walked away really lucky. That was it for him. So
wow.
we are seriously lucky. And I myself, like, just all I had was the spinal cord injury. I didn't have a single scratch on me, other than severing my spinal cord, and then due to like being whipped forward, because I was literally like whipped forward. I ended up getting a hole in my stomach and my bowel, so I had to have like emergency surgery. They had to go and sew that up and
Yeah.
fix that.
Wow.
Um,
I mean,
but yeah,
it's interesting to think, right? You barely got the seatbelt on time. Like how terrible would that have been if you didn't even have the seatbelt? But then it's like that you kind of needed that top belt as well, right?
Yeah.
To truly protect your spine. So it's like some good and some like, oh, I wish we had different technology, right? But
yeah. Or that lap belt. I wish that lap belt would have been around at that time. But I mean, I think, like, thank God I put it on, because if I would have went through the windshield, because I was literally sitting in the middle. I don't know if
you're
I'd be
so
here.
little, just a little body flying through the air too. It's like it's
Yeah.
it's not like you would have just hit the seat and been like, you're so little, you would have flown right past
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Which I'm so thankful. I feel so lucky and blessed every day. I get to wake up, and even though I get to roll around, I roll around in a chair, like, life is awesome. I got no complaints, and
Yeah.
I'm so
Well,
thankful.
and it's interesting. I want to once I get through this round of kind of Tokyo aspiring athletes, I want to talk to some parents, because I do think parents are a really interesting part of this story. It sounds like your mom was a really tough, right, kind of grinder, 3 jobs and, like getting through that, because that therapy stuff, it crushes really strong people. Like they can't do it, right? They like just, they give up and then they don't, they don't fully rehab, right, to the extent of their potential.
Exactly.
So what was it like in the hospital? Because 3 months is a long time. I mean, for you as a little girl, it must have felt like an eternity.
Oh, it totally felt like an eternity. And my mom, I didn't get to see my mom for, I think the first time I saw her was 2 months. And
Are you
she,
serious?
yeah, and she didn't even look the same. Like, actually, I gotta say, as a 7-year-old, we have nightmares and those kind of things. And that's just how my brain was able to process it. And I remember the first time I saw her and I couldn't recognize her. Like her face was just black and blue and big and swollen. And I had nightmares about my mom. Like I just was like, so like it wasn't her. And I mean, I'll never forget that day. Like we got to see each other and I was laying in the hospital bed and she was in a wheelchair next to me and they wheeled her in and it was unbelievable. We had a family friend. We had our neighbors next door. They really helped take care of me, like when my mom was working and stuff. And their names are Jerry and Karen, and they really stepped up to the plate. Jerry, he was retired, older couple, never had kids. And so I was kind of like their kid. And he stayed with me for 96 days in the hospital. He stayed up until once I finally got the chair and I started going through my PT and OT. But he slept on that couch next to me and his wife would come in every day and he would hold my hand. And I'll never forget the day that, the doctor came in and told me I would never walk again. That was, obviously the hardest day of my life. And I just remember like I was screaming and yelling and like, when you sometimes go to the hospital and you visit other people and you hear people yelling and you're like, they're crazy. But that was literally me. I was like screaming and yelling like, God, why would you do this to me? What did I do? Why is this happening to me? I can't believe, and like, I don't even want to, I just remember I kept saying like, I don't want to be in a wheelchair. I have no purpose. I didn't even use those words. I probably didn't understand that, but I don't think I ate for 3 days. It was a bad time. And he literally held my hand and he's a Buddhist, like it was really strong. And
Wow.
he practiced Buddhism every single day. And he actually really got me through. He did a lot of meditation, a lot of breathing, a lot of holding hands and just really trying to be present in the moment and being thankful for what we had. So man, without Jerry, I don't know how I would have gotten through. I'm really lucky.
What a beautiful story.
Yeah, it's pretty. He passed away, I want to say about 5 years ago. His wife is still here. They actually came out to Phoenix. They retired out here. And I still keep in touch with her every once in a while. So yeah, without them, man, I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed to have amazing people there for us in that time.
I mean, it's the old adage, right? It takes a village, you
really does.
You don't know where it's going to come from, but man, it's just so helpful to have people in your life, right?
Yeah. And I really grew up in a small town, Port Washington, really small town in Wisconsin, just north of Milwaukee, little harbor town off of Lake Michigan. And like my school, everybody, like as I finally got in the chair and I had about a month of just PTOT and getting to know and use the chair and learning how to get dressed and do all my daily activities to become independent. My class actually came to visit and I remember that. And
when you're still in the hospital?
Yeah, they all came to visit.
Wow.
And the nurses and the nurses talked to them and explained what had happened to me. And it was really cool because it made my transition going back to school a lot easier because the kids knew, what I needed. And if I wanted something, I would ask for help. And Kaitlyn's still the same person. She's just, her brain and her legs, they just don't talk anymore. But other than that, it's still Kaitlyn. And I think that really helped a lot with my transition going back to school and just the treatment from my friends. Like nothing really changed, it was still.
I have a theory about small towns and disability, and that small towns are generally really good for people with disabilities, right? Because everybody just knows you and they accept you or whatever. Did you stay in the town, right, the rest of your childhood, and so you just sort of rolled back into your crew and like your friends were your friends and like things went like talk to like get me all the way through high school. Was that I mean, it just sounds too easy to me. Like,
it was awesome. Because I went to a small Catholic school and I went to Catholic school all the way to 8th grade. And my classmates were my classmates from 1st grade to 8th grade. And, I think we had like 25, 28 kids in my class. And so it really was like all the kids like wanted to be in my wheelchair, because here's the thing. When I went back to school, I remember my first day back and they made all these special accommodations in the classroom. everything from like having a desk and just making sure like my school was not accessible. So they had to like the secretary of the school and like the science teacher would carry me in my wheelchair, like up and down the stairs to go to like whatever class I had to go to lunch, whatever I needed. This was in the beginning because
you're a light. You're just a little girl.
And nothing was accessible yet. And so I really kind of like, it was like my family. And, you know, everybody really understood, like I would have accidents sometimes because I would, you know, I lost the control of my bowel and bladder due to my injury. And nobody ever made a big deal of it. You know, I would go home if I had an accident and, you know, nobody ever like, where did Kaitlyn go? But, you know, nobody made a big deal. So I was really lucky in that regard. It wasn't until I got to high school where the public school and then our Catholic private school kind of all meshed together. And now there were even more kids. I think in my graduating class, we had like 300 or something, maybe two something, maybe not quite 300, but you know, it got a little bit more like I didn't know as many people. And I kind of felt like when I got to high school, I kind of became a little shy and I think it was
hold on. You?
I know. I think it was because of my disability though. And I didn't know these people. And it was hard because my classmates knew me. And now I'm going to this high school where I don't know all these other kids.
Yeah.
And they're just viewing me off of my disability. And so I felt a little bit ostracized. I felt like a little bit like I stuck out like a sore thumb.
And you're the only kid in a chair, right? Like you're not, there's not a crew of you, right?
No. I was the only kid in a wheelchair at my high school. I mean, even in sophomores, juniors, I mean, all through my whole time in high school, I was the only kid in a chair. And in the beginning, like, I mean, but then once I started, people got to know me. They knew how athletic I was. And I was really into wheelchair basketball. I loved wheelchair basketball. And so once they kind of learned like Kaitlyn's she's just like everybody else. People really like, I got in with the cool kids and I had a really great high school. Like I really enjoyed my experience. I had a high school sweetheart all 4 years of high school. He was a dairy farmer and like we really broke up because I wanted to travel the world and play tennis and he wanted me to stay at home and be the dairy farmer wife. And I was like, that's not my role. That's not what I'm supposed to do. But for high school for me was, it was pretty awesome. It was the first time too that like, this is where I got introduced to wheelchair tennis. And the really cool thing about wheelchair tennis is a wheelchair player or an adaptive player is allowed 2 bounces, but you can compete against anybody. It doesn't have to be a disabled athlete. It can be an able-bodied, like it's non-disabled athlete. So I literally played on my high school tennis team from at freshman all the way through my senior year. I played on varsity all 4 years. And just having that experience and that exposure, really, I remember we would go to other high schools, and they would just like look at me like, when they're doing the lineup and like what, we're going to play a girl in a wheelchair. And I even remember some of the coaches would protest like the 2 bounce rule, saying it wasn't fair. Yep. And my coach would be like, nope. And we always had to print it up, the rules, everything that says it's legal, just in case people would try to like protest. And I remember
it was as a state, right?
Yeah.
Somewhat ahead of its time. I mean, there were at least some rules to allow you to participate, which is super cool because a lot of states around the country are still struggling with these rules.
I know. And I was literally the first in the state of Wisconsin. I was the first girl to play high school tennis. And now there's a ton of kids that play, which is really exciting.
I'd like to take a quick break to show you how you can get involved as a volunteer with Angel City Sports.
Are you interested in supporting Angel City Sports? We're seeking volunteers to help organize clinics and events, as well as support our athlete outreach efforts, marketing and media, and even fundraising and development. All skill sets and backgrounds are welcome in support of our mission to provide free adaptive sport opportunities for children, adults, and veterans with physical disabilities or visual impairments. For our younger athletes, we welcome you to join the Angel City Youth Leadership Council. Middle and high school age students are eligible to join the Youth Leadership Council, where you will learn about the disabled community by working working side by side with our athletes and acquire important skills such as teamwork, leadership, philanthropy, and event management. To sign up for our volunteer newsletter and stay up to date on all upcoming opportunities, visit angelcitysports.org.
What would you tell parents, right, of a child that went through what you went through?
You know, now that I'm kind of seeing both, like I've had my experience and now working at Ability 360 and working with a lot of our juniors and their parents. I'm learning that some parents are like helicopters. Like they don't want to leave their kid at practice. They don't want to, I don't know. What is that? I mean, you're a parent. I'm not a parent, but what is that? Is that like,
it's over parenting, right? It's too much.
yeah. And I think what my mom did really well is she let me make mistakes. She let me fall. She let me, and she was there to help me get back up, but she let me fall out of my chair. She let me do things. For instance, like, I remember we were going to a baseball game and I was newly injured and I had to go up this super steep ramp and my mom wanted to push me and she's like, Kaitlyn, I can help. And I'm like, no, don't touch me. Like, I got to do this. And she's like, I just felt, later she tells me, like, I felt so embarrassed because every people around her were looking at her like she was a horrible mother. Like, why isn't she helping her daughter up the ramp, Yeah. And I think, you have to put yourself as a parent in those situations in order for your kid to like accept those challenges. They're going to face those challenges regardless. And if you're there and it's just a support and do it together, I think that's what really helped me, as a kid, become independent and self-sufficient, because my mom knew I needed this. And she knew that she wanted me to be an independent, free living adult. And she just knew she could be my biggest cheerleader. And I think for kids and parents today, same thing, like let your kid with a disability fall, let them, hurt themselves. It's okay. Like It's part of life, regardless if you have a disability or not. And for me, that's the best thing I think my mom could have ever done. And I'm so lucky.
We're not given a book when we have kids. You just have to figure it out. But your mom just had some good instincts. She had good instincts. But, it's interesting because I know the amputee world, better than I know these other worlds. And it's the same thing. We go to these camps and you see the parents like holding the kid's hand, walking in unstable terrain, or, like trying to catch them before they hit the ground. And, it is too much. And I do think that like that is one of the beauties of sport, because it allows, right, the child to separate a little bit, right? From the parent, right? And I also think I don't know if it's funny, but I always thought it was funny where people worried about a person with a disability getting injured. It's like, I'm not already injured here. Like, we'll be all right.
What more could happen? Like, honestly, exactly.
Like injured, car accident, going 70 miles an hour. Like broke my back. Like, I don't know that this is going to be worse, right?
Yeah.
Like,
what's a fall, and like playing wheelchair basketball, like, I remember the first time we had a game or something and I fell on the court, you fall over in your wheelchair all the time. And I remember my mom, like, I saw her in the stand, she like stood up and was like wanting, and I was like, I looked right at her because I knew she'd be scared. And I was like, I'm fine. Like, I'm going to get up. It's fine. Like, it's part of the game. And that's what taught me to like, get back up, keep trying. So.
I love it. And like, I don't know, I had a recent experience with my son Ezra where he is like fell off in a practice and he sort of fell in a way that was really dangerous. So I actually like broke down with him how he needs to fall to avoid injury, which is kind of an interesting concept for parents. It's like, there's a teachable thing here, but maybe it's teaching our kids how to fall, right? And how to get up, but it's not to like somehow be there to prevent the fall, because that's impossible.
No. No. And, if you're a parent and, your kid has a spinal cord injury or spina bifida or whatever, some disability where they do use a wheelchair, like my mom was really awesome. And like, she sat with me and we worked it out. Like I wanted to figure out always how to get from the floor to my chair, just in case I ever fell. And, she would, we would practice and practice and practice. And like, I'm just so, thankful and lucky, like, work through those scenarios with your kids because it's going to happen to them. They're going to be on their own and you don't want them to be in a situation where they can't get up themselves or they have to, ask somebody for help. They should be able to be self-sufficient enough to, or know where to, or if they do need to ask, how can this person help you? I think really, going over those different situations are really important to, living an independent lifestyle.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about your journey in sport. So by high school, you're already playing wheelchair basketball and you find wheelchair tennis. So talk to me about how did you find wheelchair basketball? How old were you? Like, what were the circumstances around that? Because so many of these stories are random and luck, and maybe yours wasn't, I don't know. But like, that's my mission in life, or one of them is like, let's take the luck, right?
It really actually was just kind of circumstance. I was going to PT maybe, I like to say it was about a year after I broke my back, maybe 8 months. I was going to PT, like outpatient PT and OT and stuff like that. And my PT had mentioned to my mom and my brother, the University of Whitewater, which is in Wisconsin. They have a really great adaptive sports program and a good collegiate program. They're really known for their wheelchair basketball. They put on, this is back in 95, I'd say 95, 96. They put on a wheelchair sports camp for kids. And so this was my first time being with other kids with similar or, very different or similar disabilities.
And how did you find out about Whitewater?
My PT knew about it.
In the hospital, like before you got out of the hospital or after when you were?
It was outpatient. It was outpatient. She actually went to the University of Whitewater for PT school or something like that. Okay. So she had happened to know about the program and it was new. It was really new. It was just kind of starting. And I went to my very first summer camp with other kids in wheelchairs. So it was,
You're like 2 years post-injury or something?
Yeah, I'd say I was probably like 9 or 10 now.
Yeah.
And I remember I was super scared and super nervous about because this was the first time I was away from my mom and my family since my injury. Like first time I would stay overnight somewhere and my mom wasn't there and it was a week-long camp. And I remember when I first got there, because I really at this point, this was my first exposure to being around other kids with disabilities. And when I got there and they were about to drop me off, I was like looking around and I was like, whoa, these people are really different. I mean, some of them look like me, but some of them are really different. I don't know how I feel about this. And I just remember I was a little homesick for the first day or two. And then that's kind of when I really started to break out of my shell. And they had really awesome counselors and camp staff that, I remember after my mom left, I went back to my dorm room and I was crying. I was like, I just want to go home. I got through that. I'm so glad I did. And but then I made really good friends and I learned from all those other kids, how they get around. And, when you leave the hospital with a spinal cord injury, you're told you have to carry this backpack with you everywhere where you have like a change of clothes, your catheters, your gloves, your supplies for your bowel program. You got a transfer board to help you transfer from your chair to anything else. And that's where I learned, I can leave all that bullshit behind. I don't need it. They taught me, all these kids are like, well, I do it this way, or, I use these catheters, or,
it's like all of the hacks.
Yeah. And you can I had on my first chair, I had like the handlebars, to push me. I had the armrests. I had wheelie bars. At the end of the camp, all that was gone. It was gone. My chair was just my chair, the wheels, and that's it. And my mom came to pick me up and they were like, what happened to all your stuff? And the counselor's like, oh, it's in her bag. You don't need it anymore. And that's kind of just where I learned how to hop a curb that camp. But we also tried, wheelchair basketball. I tried wheelchair tennis. And at that point, I really had no interest in tennis. We did hand cycling, road racing. You name it. We kind of tried a little bit of everything. It was a really good experience. But that's where I really learned, hey, I don't need to live this this sedentary life. And after that first camp, University of Whitewater offered outreach, which was once a month. Once a month, we had one weekend where we would go, and all these kids would get dropped off on Fridays. We'd spend the night, the whole weekend in the dorms at the university. And this is what I want to create at ASU. Like, I really want to do this. But the parents would drop the kids off on Friday night. You'd hang out with kids with similar disabilities all weekend. It was like a party in the dorms. We'd order pizza, wake up in the morning, go play wheelchair basketball, kind of do whatever events were going on at the university during that weekend, whether it be football games or basketball games, always playing wheelchair basketball morning and night. And I really got to know these kids, and I really got to really evolve and just become so much more independent. And my mom would looking back, my mom would still say, every weekend I picked you up, you kept turning into this new person. And it was just, so she said it was really fun to watch.
Wow. That's really cool.
So yeah, my goal, I would love to recreate that for kids, because without those outreach, I did that for 5-6 years. Without that, I wouldn't be who I am.
Well, we're definitely going to move into the camp space at Angel City, and maybe we can work with you and Ability 360 as well, and just create lots of cool opportunities like that. I mean, the games is sort of like camp too. it's not like, you're in a dorm with no parents, but it has a camp vibe, which I think is great.
It's cool.
Okay, so you find sport early thanks to that PT, right? If you had the next PT over, you might not have found it. You might have found it eventually, but you found it quick, which is amazing. You play you play tennis through high school. Let's say you play high school through tennis. It doesn't work. And you go to the games, right? As a pretty young athlete, your first games, right? The threes. Talk to us just a little bit about getting onto that international stage, and maybe a highlight moment, right? In that international career, because that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So after high school, kind of toward my senior and junior year, I started to go to international wheelchair tennis tournaments. My name was kind of getting out there a little bit. And I ran into, at one of these tournaments, I think it was in St. Louis, I ran into the national coach. His name was Dan James. And, I immediately got onto the junior team, and I was on the U.S. junior team, and I got invited to participate in what we call a World Team Cup, which is similar to Davis and Fed Cup in tennis. And so basically, I played on the junior team. You would play 2 singles and a doubles, and you would play other countries. And if you won your 2 singles, then you won that match against that country. If you won a singles, lost a singles, then it would come down to the doubles. And then you'd kind of match and see who would win against that country. So that was kind of my first international introduction to it. It was in Switzerland. And then I just met players from all over the world.
And how old are you in Switzerland? Here's this girl from this little town in Wisconsin.
I was 15. I remember I had my birthday. I was either turned 14 or 15, but I was young, and because I had
amazing, right?
I had my birthday there. It was amazing. I don't know, it was really special. But then during the World Team Cup, we had junior, men's, and women's, and then quad division. So all these, so then I got to meet our women's teams, our men's teams, our quad team. And then I really started to learn about the wheelchair tennis tour. And I knew right away that was something that I wanted to be part of. So after high school, I took some time off before I went to college, and I just played professionally on the tour. Because I graduated in 2003 from Port Washington High School, and Athens was in 2004. And my goal was, I really wanted to go to the Paralympic Games. That had been my dream since I was 10. And my family, I don't think my mom really liked the decision of me not going to college, but hey, I look back now and I'm like, I did what I did, and I'm glad I did it. So I moved out.
Paralympics only come around every 4 years. Right?
Yeah. And so I I moved up to California. I started training, and this was right. I knew as soon as, mind you, my mom and my stepdad had also gotten divorced my junior year of high school. So I really didn't want to be home. I did not want to be in Wisconsin. I tell my mom, like, Mom, the big reason why I left was because there's just too much like hurt and trauma. I had to get out of there. Like, I needed a new place. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was 18 when I moved away. And, I had a great coach. He was working with me out in California. His name was Jason Harnett, and I trained with him. And then I made that Paralympic team in 2004. That was tough because there were a lot of women wanting to take that spot. And I remember I beat out like 3 or 4 ladies, and they were not happy, being really young and getting beat by a junior who was just a junior, last year. And now
what's the size of the delegation that would go to a Paralympic Games in tennis? Because track is so big.
Yeah.
You can't really figure out who took your spot the way you can in tennis.
We only take, for the women, you take 4, for the men, you take 4, for the quads, I think they took 3.
Okay. So it's a small team.
It's a small team, and they always want, everybody plays singles. So there's 4 people of singles, and then you have 2 doubles teams.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a couple, I just remember like there was a lot of, cause a lot of these women, like this was their life. And, here I am coming up as a junior and I'm beating them, and they didn't like that very much.
So, I feel it.
Yeah. And I remember too, at like tournaments and stuff, I would beat, our top women. And so I was getting a lot of attention, and it's really interesting because tennis is, when you're on those World Team Cups, it's a team sport, but then it's also really individual. So, you have to be a little bit selfish, and you also have to be a teammate but yet still be selfish, because it is just an individual sport like that. So, but the biggest moment, about Greece is really, I had never experienced, and I can still envision it, like the opening ceremonies. The stadium was packed, like 50,000 people, and everybody's got, a light or something like that. And so you see and it's cheering and clapping and yelling. And I'm coming in, and like all I see in front of me is like just backs of jerseys of USA, and like I'm in the middle of the pack, and like the goosebumps. And like as you're going into the tunnel and you're coming in, and then you just see this stadium packed of like 40,000 people, and like, oh my gosh, I'm getting goosebumps again. Just like, you make that circle around the track and everybody's cheering, and like that to me was probably the best moment of like just my career, like just in general. That it's amazing.
Oh, I love it.
Celebrated. Yeah.
I love it. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, I called you a multi-sport athlete, an elite multi-sport athlete.
Yes.
In the intro. And so at some moment after Rio, right, and you've had a long career, 3 games, you have to make the decision to sort of at least put the elite competitive side of tennis on hold to focus on Para-Canoe. Talk a little bit about that decision, because shoot, if you made Rio, then you could probably still stay elite in tennis. So that's a really, because it's not a retirement, but it sort of is, right? So like, tell me, talk us through that decision that you had to make.
So in Rio at the opening ceremonies, I happened to be sitting next to or in line with the coach of the Para-Canoe U.S. team. And I knew Alana Nichols, like we played basketball together, and I knew, so I started talking to her, and then I met Kelly. She's also one of our Para-Canoe athletes. And I did a lot of kayaking and canoeing as a kid, kind of growing up in Wisconsin and in the Midwest. We went to Minnesota a lot, and we canoed. And I don't know, I was just always really fascinated by it. I thought it'd be a lot of fun. And I actually, after my tennis was done, like after I was done competing in Rio for tennis, I actually went and checked out the Para-Canoe competition. I thought it looked really cool.
Oh, you actually went to the venue in Rio to see it?
Yeah, I went to go watch. Yeah, it was super cool. And I reached back out, like after we came home and stuff like that, I reached back out to Deb. Her name's Deb Smith. I reached back out to her and I was like, hey, I think I really want to give this a try. I would love to, get into a sprint kayak and see that's actually like. And she's like, great. Why don't you come out to Florida? She's got billions of boats around her house. And I jumped in one and I was kind of hooked right away. And it's super tippy. Like if you lean one way, you're going to tip over. And I kind of liked the challenge. And I liked it's so different than tennis because it's one very specific event. It's only 200 meters and you're racing on flat water. And I've never really done anything just sprint. I've always, I'm a grinder. Like with tennis, I love the grind of the game. I love fighting for every point. And with this, just you're one and done. It's it.
But there's something so right. There's something, I don't know what it is it elegant or simple about it's just your time. It's just your mark. And you, right. It's like, you just have to keep improving it, right, step by step, and you don't know how far you could go with just keeping, working on that mark. It is different, right? Than a sport like tennis or team sport can be. It's like this constant battle, and you got to go back to battle to see how you're doing to measure yourself, right? Because unless you're in it, you don't know how good you are.
Yeah, and technique is so important. Like if you don't.
Yeah.
Everything. It's really everything. And if you can't get the what we call it, the catch on the water, like if you miss it or if your technique is off, and it really is. If you're feeling off one day, your whole everything's gonna be off and you're not gonna be fast. And I'm still really learning a lot and finding my catch. And some days I have it and some days I don't. And I've really only been doing this sport since 2017, maybe I think 17. And to be honest with you, Clayton, there's just not a lot of athletes in the sport. And I think that's a big reason why I can, I have a chance to go to Tokyo. But I'm really actually, between you and me and everybody listening, I'm really looking forward to Paris 2024. Right now, I'm still really in the beginning stages of learning. I'm working with a coach and working on my technique. And I still, to me, I'm not fast enough. I need to be much faster. And this sport, it takes what I've learned from the best of the best is it takes you have to paddle 70,000 miles in order to be an expert in this sport. I have to put in that much time, and I haven't put in that much time yet.
It's like Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours rule.
Yeah, exactly.
If you do anything for 5 years, which there's about 2,000 hours, work hours a year, just think for 5 years, you're going to be an expert at it. Let's take a quick break to learn more about the Equipment Loaner Program at Angel City Sports.
Part of our mission at Angel City Sports is to eliminate all barriers to participation in adaptive sports. Providing free adaptive sports equipment is a major component to this objective. Each individual piece of equipment can cost more than $3,000. Can you imagine if running shoes cost that much? So we're building an inventory of adaptive sports equipment to support our clinics, competitions, partner programs, and to loan out to emerging local athletes. Currently, we have racing wheelchairs, throwing chairs, and sport wheelchairs, perfect for tennis and basketball. If you or an athlete you know need a piece of adaptive sports equipment, visit the Equipment Opportunities page at angelcitysports.org. If you are interested in donating equipment or supporting the Equipment Loaner Program, email us at info@angelcitysports.org.
Okay, so how has COVID affected you? You've made some life changes, right? Where you live, career. Sounds like you're doing great, getting some schooling wrapped up this summer.
Yeah.
But what kind of wrench has it thrown in your life, in your training? Are there some blessings in there that you kind of can extract? What's your COVID experience been?
So COVID for me, I think for everybody was pretty dark in the beginning. Everybody's like, what the heck is going on? We're supposed to stay in our house. And Greg and I, that's my husband. It kind of really brought us more together because he had time off work. I wasn't going somewhere to go training. Everything was kind of stopped. So we really, our last few months up in Flagstaff, we explored every part of Northern Arizona. We would go camping,
I saw a lot of your social posts about camp trips. They're just super cute.
Yeah. And we would just get away, go out in the forest and get lost. And I got kind of reconnected with nature, and I got into like some more meditation and really practice, relaxation techniques and things like that, which helped me really slow down in my life, because my life's always been go, 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 go. And it helped me really appreciate and take the time out and, do some self-care. And I really think COVID, like, one thing that is a bummer about it is like, I was really on a good track for paddling, and like, and if it didn't stop, I mean, I know at this point I would be so much faster than I am now. So
your confidence going into Tokyo and taking that trip to Hungary would be a lot higher.
Yeah. And COVID really, I mean, because everything was shut down, we had no training camp, and even getting out, I mean, I was still getting out to paddle and everything, but with the uncertainty and with like no teammates and just that, I just didn't really feel like what's the purpose of paddling? Like, what am I doing? And I just found some other things in my life at the time that were a little bit more important. And, I really wanted to finish school. Like, becoming a recreational therapist is really high on my priority because I feel like that's my calling, and I'm kind of using all the theories and models today in my job, and I see how like amazing it is and how exciting it is to help people like find their purpose and find their potential. And that really excites me. It's like almost like I'm finding a whole new fulfillment in my life. It used to be sports, and now like this is this new fulfillment for me. And that, I have to say, like, COVID has kind of been a blessing for me, because I don't think I would have reached out to Gus Lazar at Ability 360. He's the CEO and general manager. I don't think I would have reached out to him and asked him for a position, or he said like, hey, I have this idea, I want to come down and I want to work with you guys. I really don't think that would have happened. It was just all kind of circumstance. I remember it was like in May or end of April of COVID, that second month, and I was laying on our bed, and I was Greg was putting his laundry away in the bedroom, and I was just kind of crying, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and and then I brought up Gus and Ability 360, and he's like, why don't you send him an email? And I was like, I don't know, I'm scared. Like, to the fear of unknown. Right. And then I got up, and he's like, let's just do it. And so he sat next to me. I wrote up this email to Gus, and 20 minutes later, Gus calls me, and he's like, you want to what? Of course, we'd love to have you down here.
No way. So
that's how it happened.
Dude.
That's how now I'm here, and I'm so glad that happened. Like, and it wouldn't have been for COVID. I feel like I would still be up in Flag, just complacent. I was a teaching. I've been a teaching pro for since 2016, and I wasn't teaching anybody in a wheelchair. It was all just kids and adults. And, I was just an assistant, and I was content, but I wanted more. And without COVID, I really don't know if I would have made that step. I mean, I'm sure I would have at some point, but that really forced me to like.
It was like a kick in the butt.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, get moving.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
All right, I'm going to shift gears, and this is kind of the last big section of the show, which is really, I call it kind of our soul searching segment, so I just want to kind of dig deeper, and you've already revealed so much, so I think you're going to have really smart, beautiful answers. But I'm going to start with kind of a quirky question, which is, what do I not know about you that's unique or funny or whatever?
Well, I don't know if you might know this. I don't really, I really don't have a desire to have children of my own. I am a dog mom. I have 2 pugs, and they are my life, Sassafras and Delilah. I take them, one of them is with me wherever I go a lot of the time. I mean, of course, not to work, but, since I've been getting older, I have been starting to feel this like parental, like maternal instinct. And I don't know. Me and Greg talk, and I don't know. We're thinking about adoption.
Oh, dude, that's
So
so cool.
that's kind of something nobody really knows that. It's kind of been a new thing, and yeah, I mean, maybe in 5 years from now it'd be something, but I really would like to be able to have that experience and know what it's like to be a mom, and I think I'd be a really cool mom.
Oh my gosh, you'd be an amazing.
Yeah.
All right, I love it. That's a great little nugget. What has your disability taught you?
My disability has taught me to never give up. And this is, I live by this motto. It was literally on our camp, that first sports camp t-shirt. If there's a will, there's a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've lived that motto my entire life. There is always a way to do something, whether, I can't stand and reach the cup or reach the salsa on the top shelf of the grocery store, but I can get a box from the side and I can swoop it down or whatever. I mean, I am always adapting and modifying and thinking of different ways to overcome any obstacle or challenge in my life. And determination is really key. And I think my disability has taught me to be extremely determined and sometimes too stubborn, but it's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. What have you learned about self-acceptance?
Ooh, that self-acceptance is a tough one. Even just the self-acceptance of, being in a wheelchair, for the rest of my life was tough. It's humbling. It's definitely humbling. And it's almost like a brick wall sometimes, because you feel like, I don't know if I can get through that, I don't know if I can accept that. I don't know if I can accept that. And, the more you do and the more I challenge myself, the more I accept myself. So for me, I would say, always being challenged for me is as a way of how I deal with accepting myself and knowing that I'm capable and I'm able to do something.
Right. But even someone like you who from afar looks so confident, so happy, so accomplished, you still face that brick wall.
Yeah. Yes. Oh gosh. Even with like work, like this is my, my real first full-time job and with an organization. I've always, as a tennis instructor and owning my own business, I've been kind of an entrepreneur, and, I get like anxious or excited. Like sometimes making that phone call is nerve wracking, or, telling your supervisor, just sharing like, hey, I did this. I hope that's okay. I might have crossed the line. I don't know. Like those are huge, like things that like, ooh, like I don't feel 100% confident about, and I'm really learning. And yeah, like my other big thing is fake it till you make it, That's the truth.
All right. I'm going to skip a question just because you're on it. So what have you learned from some of your bigger mistakes or failures or regrets? And how do you get past them? How do you process them?
I do not view a mistake. I have no regrets. I've never made mistakes. I mean, I have made mistakes, but I don't view them as mistakes. I only view them as like learning points, or, okay, I did this didn't work out. I'm going to do it this way next time, or I'm not going to ever do that again, kind of way. I don't, that's the thing about me. I do not have any regrets. I've done some really stupid things in my life, and honestly, what I've learned out of them, I needed to go through that because it shaped me and molded me into the person I am today. And I needed to have those experiences in order to be who I am now. And I really believe, like, I feel anybody in life shouldn't feel like they've made a mistake or have a huge regret. I think that's the worst way to live. And it's more of, okay, what can I learn from this, and how can I be better?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. What stresses you out?
Time stresses me out. I want to be able to do everything. This is my other weakness. I am a people.
Like what does that mean? Like you don't have enough time, or time is like creeping up on you and you're getting old? Like what about time stresses you?
Both, but more what I mean by what I mean is I don't have enough time. I want to do so many things. I want to help every single person, and that comes in contact with me, that I have a connection with, and I'm learning, like, I have to, because otherwise that takes away time for me, and I have to take care of myself first. And I think at 35 years old, I'm really learning how to find that balance. And it's really hard to find that balance, because the work that I do, I'm so passionate about. It is my life. And I still need to remember to take time out for Kaitlyn, and for Kaitlyn to have time with Greg, and have Kaitlyn have time with my pugs and my family. And
Yeah.
I get so wrapped up and caught up in my passion that I do take away from my life, or those outside activities that is important for a person, to have to be sane and to be balanced.
Right.
And I'm learning. I'm really learning, and it's really hard for me to say no.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you because you really touched it on your passion and your purpose. I feel like you're living your purpose, and you're doing amazing work. Is there anything in terms of your kind of like long-term plans in sport, or even beyond sport, you want to sort of share? Like it sounds like you're really tracking to 24 and even 28. You threw that in there. But like, you just want to compete, like, like figure out having career and balancing all this and just go as long as you can. Like what's the plan here?
No, I don't, I never experienced what I've experienced in the last 7 months, working with Ability 360 and transitioning into becoming a recreational therapist. I've never had this fulfillment outside of sport. Like, only my fulfillment in my life has always come from my athletic accomplishments and what I'm capable of doing on the tennis court, or, on the water. But I've never felt this fulfillment outside of the sport arena. And I am, I hope 2024 happens. However, my heart and my passion is totally starting to go off into this other direction. And I'm not even meaning to steer it that way. It's just kind of going that way. And like I said prior, I would really I would love to start an outreach camp for kids with disabilities, something like what I experienced, to have like a monthly weekend. I don't even know what's that, a monthly day, or, something starts small, but to be able to have these kids hang out with other kids and just have that camaraderie and that friendship, and to have something, that they are able to share. Having a disability and being with other people with disabilities, you have a lot in common. And kids with disabilities, their friends in school, they don't have that commonality. So being able to bring people together is what I really love doing. And since I started this whole tennis program, now I have, Greg calls it my posse, or my little club, because they literally follow me wherever I go. Like, oh, Kaitlyn's going to go watch ASU tennis player. We're going to all go watch. So like last weekend, I had about 18 of us. We went and watched my assistant Ilza play. She's #1 on ASU's women's tennis team, play Utah. And we were a huge cheering section for her. And my passion, I love bringing people together. And I don't know, where sports, and if it's going to be sports is going to be the vehicle, or adaptive athletics is going to be the vehicle to do it, then that's my vehicle. But I don't, it's going to come to an end, and I'm going to see myself on the other side pretty soon. And I just want to help people and kids and others really find their purpose and reach their goals.
Beautiful. My God, you're so awesome.
Thanks.
All right. So the last thing I'm going to do is give you the microphone. Is there anything you want to share that you haven't already shared? Any words of wisdom, any shout outs, anybody you've forgotten to give credit, in forming the amazing human being that you are? It's the open mic now.
Okay. Man, if this is my opportunity, I first and foremost would really love to just thank my mom and my 2 older brothers, Peter and Brian, for, so much of their family support. And without them, I would not be where I'm at today. And just for them pushing me and believing in me and having the confidence in me that, I can get through and be the person I am. To my, to Jerry and Karen, who like were with me and by my hospital bed at my side for, you know, for many years, and helping me grow and taking me to doctor's appointments and after the car accident and just driving to around. And to my classmates, I mean, geez, to still be my friend and love me for where I am no matter what, and after what had happened, and really helping me grow and supporting me. And to my coaches, geez, like without them, I mean, I wouldn't be I wouldn't have been number one in the US, top 8 in the world. Like, I just have so much credit to Dan and Jason and Paul. There's just so many people that have been in my life that I know I'm not saying everybody, but I am so thankful and grateful. And I truly, truly lay down every night when I put my head down on my pillow, and I thank God for the people that he's brought into my life and the opportunities and blessings he has given to me. And Kaitlyn and you giving me the opportunity to come out to the Angel City Games and be a coach and be part of the coaching staff for the wheelchair tennis portion, and being able to mix and mingle with other kids and adults that have just found adaptive sports. Like, that's huge. I love getting at somebody that's brand new to it all. We'll
add canoe one of these days, so you're gonna have to post with that. Okay, so where can our audience and listeners find you? Do you want them to find you on social media? Like, and we can drop this into the show notes as well, but just do a little shout out for yourself.
I'm on Instagram at Verfeurth. I'm on Snapchat, KV Wheels, Facebook, Kaitlyn Verfeurth. I'm not much of a Twitter person.
Yep.
I also have a website. It's KaitlynVerfeurth.com. I have lacked on keeping my website updated, but it is something that I'm going to be working on this summer. I want to kind of refresh and redo that. So you can find me in those outlets or at Ability 360. I'm there every single day pretty much. So
all right.
If you're in the Phoenix area, I'm there.
I'm definitely coming to visit you, and I'm in Phoenix. So
sweet.
So listen, Kaitlyn, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us. I love hearing the twists and turns in those lightning bolt moments in your life. And I wish you the best going forward, whether Tokyo's in your plans or it's Paris and LA. I'm just excited to see this next phase of your life. And thank you so much for being you. You're amazing.
Thank you, Clayton. Thank you so much. Love being on.
So I hope you enjoyed Kaitlyn's episode. Personally, I really admire Kaitlyn's strength in all areas of her life. And man, it really paid off because she made the Tokyo team. Watch out for her. Our next episode is Robert Tanaka, a wonderful young man who'll be competing in Tokyo in blind judo.